Welcome to India and England News. Our guest today is Vanita Shastri. We met first time in Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU in India. And then we got in touch again here in Boston. In Boston, she was the executive director of TIE Boston, worked with many nonprofits, including her own Meru Foundation. And then she made a quick switch to Ashoka University, a new university which was being founded in Delhi. And she just completed her 9-year term with Ashoka University. We are going to talk to her about her role in Ashoka University, as well as changing landscape of higher education in India. Vanita, welcome to our studio.
Thank you, Upendra. Wonderful to be here.
Excellent. I'm so excited to talk to you today. And the topic is very interesting. So I want to start, you completed 9 years with Ashoka University, which is one of the premier universities in India today. And you played one of the founders' role in the university. So let's start there. And then we'll talk about how the higher ed landscape is changing.
Sure. Thank you, Upendra. Yes, I joined Ashoka in 2014-15 when it was being formed as part of the founding team. It's a new liberal arts and sciences university in India. And so they were looking for people who had experience from the US because they wanted to model it on a US university. And I was the founding dean of undergraduate programs, helped build that program. And then I moved after 3 years into a position of the Dean of Global Education. So I've been looking after all their international partnerships and strategic, activities with students going abroad and faculty exchange. So it's been a fun ride, setting up a new university from scratch. I can say that I've had a lot of fun and it's been really satisfying.
So now the Ashoka University has really emerged one of the premier universities in India. And as far as I remember, there was only one university, and that was JNU at our time, right? So how do you play these dynamics between emerging private universities in India and public universities, which during our time, hardly we thought about private, everything was public. So describe us that landscape?
Sure. So the higher education landscape in India is, has been changing, as you said. For the first, 30 years or so after independence, it was largely dominated by the state universities, the public universities, as you rightly said, the JNU, the Delhi universities, central universities, state universities, IITs, engineering colleges that were started by the government. But the population, as you can imagine, for India is large,
sure,
and the need is large. So private sector has been, playing a role. But more recently, there was a lot of, sort of gap between what students were really learning and employability. That really came out in a number of reports by the government, by, private organizations, the non-profits like Pratham, they write a report on school education. So this gap and a lot of the...
you mean the gap between the students graduating and finding a job?
No. You may have a degree, but you're not employable.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you may have passed the, and got your degree or your school certificate, but when you get on the job, you are not really able to, work, and you still need more training.
Sure.
And that is what a lot of, including banks and IT companies, India has such a large IT revolution. Yeah. But if you look at the big players, whether it is Infosys or, any of the others, they all recruited and trained in-house.
Okay.
So there was that gap. And some of the, very serious entrepreneurs of India and very successful entrepreneurs who are big employers saw this and said, where are we going wrong with the education? And why is it that our students who are coming out into the job market are not critical thinkers, are not good writers, are not good communicators? And so this is the gap that the Ashoka founders were, looking to close. And so that's how the idea...
Who were some of the Ashoka founders?
So interestingly, I'll tell you, Ashoka is a very interesting model because it's not founded by one person. It's a very sort of crowdsourced model of funding. Anybody who gave up to some amount of money became a founder. Of course, there are 3 or 4 big names like Ashish Dhawan and Sanjeev Bikhchandani and Pramath Raj Sinha and Vineet Gupta and others. But it's very large number of, almost now 160 founders and counting. The other thing is that, the governance model is very unique in the sense that the person who is giving money is not necessarily going to be owning it. And that is why it is not named after one family.
Okay.
They use the ancient emperor, King Ashoka, and that also has an interesting reason. So these are some of the reasons. But the main focus of the founders was really to build a liberal arts university, introduce liberal arts education in India. A lot of them had gone back with a US degree, whether it's an MBA or a graduate
studies. So you mean the teachers and professors there or students too?
A lot of the founders are from founders also. Okay. And then when we started recruiting, in the first 5 years, I would say 90% of our faculty were from the US or UK and Europe. So they've been trained abroad. So that is how it got started.
So now how many students Ashoka University has?
It has almost 2,700 students. Yes. The bulk is the undergraduate students. But then we have now 3 or 4 majors like master's programs. And then a lot of PhD programs as well.
So now have other private investors and intellectuals have copied the Ashoka model in India? Or?
Yes, very much so. So Ashoka was really the path breaking and it got started. But now you can see there is so many. Kriya University in Chennai area. There is Flame. There is, Symbiosis was already there, but they have a liberal arts school. There's Astria. There's Asim Premji University. There's Plaksha in the technology sector. So there are very many new universities and more upcoming.
Okay. So now, just, to give some sort of idea to our viewers.
Yeah.
We went, the old universities in, JNU, for example. Let's pick that as an example. And you studied in JNU, also you're founder of Ashoka University. So for someone like me who has not been to Ashoka University, not been to India in a long time from the educational point of view, what is the difference you see in teaching model in JNU versus in Ashoka University?
Sure. I think, JNU and Delhi University, when we were there, I went to Lady Shriram and then JNU.
Sure.
And they served a purpose of what we may think is good education today, then.
Yeah.
But, increasingly where we are living now, the kind of education that you need and the kind of problem solving that needs is something that, the liberal arts model. So the model is different, in terms of how you are getting educated is, I would think that is, for example, I'll give you like the core curriculum. When we were studying only one subject. Now the liberal arts model is a very broad-based, multidisciplinary approach. So you don't really only specialize in one major or one subject, but you do several things.
Okay.
For example, a series of core curriculum, which is the foundation courses at Ashoka. These are courses of ways of thinking. So this is something that we did not have that. And the emphasis is on, doing a major and a minor, mixing and matching your disciplines. And the idea is that, if you want to solve a problem today, having only deep knowledge in one discipline may not help.
Sure.
For example, smart city. We're all talking of smart city, but smart city will need technology, will need, environment, will need, the climate change ideas, we need economics. So you have to have people working on from very many areas, and also, of course, the team project work as well.
Yeah. So what about in terms of, and here I think, the difference I would like to know from you is in terms of fees, for example. So when we were studying there, especially in JNU, we had a scholarship, hardly there was any cost, nothing was coming from our pocket. And in Ashoka University, being a private university, how is the fee structure there? Tell us about that.
Sure. So, I think we went to university and college for nothing, like you said.
Sure.
Even you got scholarship, maybe. For me, it was like, 13 rupees, 30 rupees or something per semester.
Yeah.
It was very reasonably priced. It was almost free. And it was therefore, subsidized by the government.
Sure.
But the private universities, of course, are fee paying. Ashoka is one of the most expensive ones on one side. But, it's based, like I said, on the US model. So financial aid or scholarship is a very important component. Almost 50% of Ashoka students get financial aid. And so, and some of them are getting full 100% tuition and living cost. So we have a very diverse group of students, first-time college goers, students from, small cities, villages, Kashmir, places that you would not think of.
Mm.
So the founders and the admission process has kept in mind the fact that you do not want to become a rich man's or a rich student's university. There are some others, private universities that are more fee paying, of course, and emphasis is on revenue. But for a large number like Kriya or Asim Premji and Jindal and so on, the scholarship is an important part. So it makes it more, at least open for other students as well.
So if you compare the fee, for example, say in Ashoka University versus Boston University here or Northeastern University,
yeah,
like what is the fee for a semester there?
I would say it'd be 1/4.
Would be 1/4
Yes, at Ashoka. So even the most expensive, full-paying student would be paying 1/4 if they compare it to a US university.
So have any of the US students have gone to study in Ashoka because?
Well, we have a very active exchange model, with global mobility. So there are lots of students who come from US and Europe and England to study at Ashoka, but that is within the program, like semester. We do have some international students. We had a student from, Europe. We had a student from Mexico. We had a student from sometimes even US, the diaspora students. So yes, but very few. But we are getting a lot more transfer students now.
So now tell us a little bit in more detail about your role at Ashoka. What exactly you did? I know you talked about your title and all, but what exactly?
Right. So in the beginning, of course, I was the dean of undergraduate programs, which meant I helped set up the undergraduate, program. Like I said, the academics, the residence life. A liberal arts model includes the fact that you're going to live on campus, and when you live on campus, there's residence life. So we had, all of that, student activities, academics. So, I did that.
So like the hostel system, like the way we had
Yes.
in JNU.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes, but we are the US model, so we call it residence halls.
Okay.
So you can think of it like a Wellesley or a Yale, where students are living on campus. There is pastoral care, there's faculty and wardens, who look after them, and therefore you have to have very interesting residence life policies because the living experience is also part of the learning experience.
Sure.
In that model. And so we are a fully residential campus for undergraduates. And so for that reason, I was taking care of that. That was a hard part because, students at this age, 18 to 22, can be hard. And then as the, university expanded and grew, then my office was split into 3. And I hired a dean of student affairs who looked after all residence life and student. And a piece of my academic work went on to the Office of Academic Affairs. And I took on this role of Dean of Global Education and Strategic Partnerships. So I looked after all our partnerships, MOUs, faculty exchange, students going and, studying abroad. I'll tell you one interesting aspect of Indian education at Ashoka. A large number of Indian students, as you know, are coming to the US or going to UK and Europe for undergraduate education. And that is true. And you can see the numbers, that is also growing. But when some parents would come to me for advice, I would say, well, if you want to come to a good university, then Ashoka is a good alternative because you could come here, have a good liberal arts education, and then go for our study abroad, for us 2 summers, a semester. So you can actually experience 3 universities in your 3 or 4 years. So I think a lot of Indian parents and students are doing that. They are doing undergraduate in India and then applying for master's or PhD abroad.
So for 9 years, your 1 feet was in India, 1 feet was here to some extent. You keep settling. How that changed your lifestyle, and how was that lifestyle?
Well, it was fun because as you know, we some of us in the diaspora, NRIs, we are very committed to our country. Wanted to give back, and so at that point, my children have already graduated and gone away. So when this opportunity came, I said, okay, this is time for me to contribute and, to build a university. My parents were still there. So that was another reason I could go and spend time. My husband was amazingly supportive. So, I would come
Your
and
husband,
visit.
Shekhar Shastri.
Shekhar Shastri, yes, exactly. 3 to 4 times I would come and visit and he would come once or twice. So There wasn't, we met every 6 weeks to 8 weeks, it wasn't longer than that.
I think that's very good for marriage, right?
Yes,
for good marriage.
yes.
Some distance is good.
And it is, and Shekhar has become an amazing good cook and managing very well on his own.
Excellent.
And has been a big supporter, and which is why I could do this. And so, yeah, it's been fun. And, I could very seamlessly wear my sari and bindi and talk Hindi and get there.
Sure.
And I could return and come back here and get into my life here. So I'm comfortable in both worlds. And I think that also helped because, having lived here in the US and having, worked in universities here, when I started doing the global education piece, it was very easy for me to, reach out to universities and talk to them.
So now your assignment with Ashoka University is done.
Yes.
So what is the next on your list?
Well, I've just completed, yesterday, January 31st was my last day at Ashoka. And I am going to explore and see. I just take some time off and no plans yet, but, happy to do something.
Excellent. Whatever I do will be great. Excellent. Yes. Now, again, going back to the higher ed in India.
Yeah.
So when you look in this dichotomy or dynamics of private versus public universities, what role the Indian government is playing into this, or what is their reaction?
Right. So I think, senior people, including government, ministers, prime minister, were concerned about this, what we earlier talked about, the gap of in employability or just the graduation rates and learning abilities and so on. And there have been many reports. And based on that, the government actually set up a very high-powered committee that has submitted its policy recommendations. And these were all brought together in a framework called the National Education Policy. It was, unveiled in 2020. And then from 21 onwards, it has become policy. And in 22, the directive was sent to all universities that you have to now start implementing it. And by the way, the new education policy is not just for higher education. It also includes K-12. So it is a very comprehensive, reform policy for primary education, middle school, and
so what are maybe let's talk about what are the two main highlights of this new policy?
I'll just speak for the higher education.
Okay.
Piece.
Yeah,
in the higher education, there are three things, right? Which was not there before. Number one is, the continuous learning aspect, which has become very important now. You can exit at any time and you can come back to learn, and no problem with that. I'll tell you the problem would be, suppose you got into a wrong college and you somehow did not like it, but you were there for 1 year and you left. That 1 year was useless, right? Those credits were gone.
Yeah.
Now they have created an academic bank of credits, the ABC. And so if you go into a college and, you do 1 year and for some reason you want to change, those credits you can put in the bank. And wherever you go, those will be transferable.
Excellent. That's very good.
So exits is a big important part of it. The second is the fact that you can actually internationalization. All universities have now a global office and they want more and more foreign universities to participate, to have partnerships. Like Ashoka, it was very natural. And so, you could do that. The third aspect is this transfer, ability of transferring from one place to the other. So I think just in the higher education space, and also the underlying focus that this, it should be multidisciplinary education. And also a recommendation that it should be a 4-year undergraduate program. As you know, earlier in India, it's the UK model of 3 years BA. And so now the directive is that you must be a 4-year undergraduate program with exits. So you can exit with a certificate after 1 year, with a diploma after 2 years, with a degree in 3 years, or an advanced research degree. And research has become a very important part. And also, internships or vocational studies. So part of your 4-year program, you must also have some skill building there. So these are some of the highlights of the new policy.
So how the public universities like Delhi University or Madras University or Calcutta University or JNU, they are responding or they are changing in response to it?
Well, they all have to change and they're all changing. And, sometimes there is, obviously some resistance, but they are being very creative. I saw, for example, in Delhi University, the vocational or the skill building part, they've just added some like computer courses or some, so everyone's trying and doing something. And we'll see, always these take some time, but eventually it'll be work out.
So now let's talk a little bit about the the investment opportunities in education sector or higher education sector in India. Those of us, our viewers who are watching here, Indian Americans or anybody, even Americans who have some money and say, look, I want to explore this market and want to invest there in India. What are there opportunities for foreigners to go and invest in the higher ed there? And if there are, how they can collaborate?
Sure. I mean, I think private universities are coming up. So if people are starting universities or colleges or schools. What is your intention? If your intention is to make profit out of education, then it's a very particular kind of model. But for example, in Ashoka, it's a non-profit. You're actually investing for a cause and not for profit. So it depends on the person's intention, but certainly that is there. But the more creative or the more innovative way to contribute to India's higher education is what like I did. Give your time, go there. And as you know, a lot of people from here, especially from business schools, are they're becoming deans of the business school or in engineering. So faculty, can go. And I think that would be a very good contribution to take a year or two and give your time there. Because one of the big crises in India in quality terms is to be able to hire and get faculty that are well trained, who can actually deliver these courses. So I think that is, a concern. Other than that, of course, I mean, the new education policy is actually allowing foreign universities to set up campuses. In Gujarat, in India, Gandhinagar, a whole, it's called the Gift City, which is almost like the special economic zone of the previous era, where you can actually, there's lots of tax and other incentives where you can go and set up campuses. And in fact, in January, 2 Australian universities, the Deakin University and the Wollongong, have set up a campus. And I was there for the inauguration of the Deakin University. They are starting with 2 master's programs. So the NEP is actually making it very open for foreign universities to come and set up campuses or programs. And by the way, Indian universities can also start, campuses abroad. So, for example, IIT Madras is setting up a campus in Zanzibar, and Amity was always here in the US. And so they are trying to do that. The government is sort of, making higher education of India India a destination for higher education, but also exporting Indian higher education.
So now, also a few years ago, MIT or Harvard, they had opened some small offices in Bombay or somewhere in India.
Yes.
They still have, because again, Babson College has a big, huge presence.
Yes. A large number of universities from the US have a center or a, office, and they're engaging with India. By the way, people are wanting to engage with India in a very big way. I got people were knocking at my door, wanting to become partners and, collaborate with Ashoka. Likewise, there are many universities that want to engage with India. There are 3 or 4 reasons. One is to recruit students. Every university in the US is trying to recruit good qualified students from India, fee-paying students, whether it's undergraduate or masters, especially because of the Chinese students, the numbers going down there. Then, of course, there are people who are wanting to do research with India. And this is very serious because there are in some fields, the data from India cannot be exported. You can only do that kind of research sitting in India. This is really true for life sciences and healthcare. So they're doing research. Then there are lots of people who want to work in, environment sciences, ecology. Faculty coming in and doing projects. Also, final one I'll say is engaging with alumni. So you can imagine that there are so many Indian students who have studied here and are back now in India, and they want to engage with them and continue to involve them in their projects as well. So whether it is Cornell, Harvard, Yale, Chicago, all of them have very engaged activities going on.
So the alumni concept is new there, which was not there before. Like they're engaging the alumni to come and support the universities.
But the alumni was very strong here, right?
Strong here,
so for example, you can see that, the Yale University has a very important Yale Indian alumni.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that existed. Yeah.
But you're right. The concept of the Alumni Association, as it was developed in the US, is new to India. IITs had started it earlier. It was the IIT alumni is very strong. But, with Ashoka, what we did is we actually also have started our alumni right from the beginning. So our alumni group is strong, and I'm happy to say that at least one of them has done well in entrepreneurship and is now a founder.
Excellent.
Has given money back.
Excellent.
And that is the vision and the goal for the founders, that at some point they would like Ashoka alumni to be on the board of Ashoka and run it, just like a Harvard or a Yale.
Excellent. So now, before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about numbers.
Yeah.
And so if you can give us some sort of a quantitative analysis of the higher ed or universities in India, how many are there, what is happening, how it has changed in the last 10, 15 years.
Right. So, India has the largest number, one of the largest of the top four, largest number of higher education institutions. So, in terms of universities, there are about 890, 900, but all increasing. In terms of
increasing every month. Right?
Every month, and in terms of colleges, 46,000. So it's really huge.
So that is for about 1.5 billion people, right?
Right.
Now, how that number compares with the US?
So US has 4,000 universities.
4,000 for 300 million.
Yes.
About 300 million people.
So the need is, of course, and the young population is younger in India. So the need for, 1,000 Ashokas is there. And there are many more, this can segue into the concept of the gross enrollment ratio, which is GRE. GER is basically the number of students in that age group who should actually be in school. And if you look at that percentage in India, it's very low compared to China, Japan, and the neighboring countries. So the government.
How low it is? Do you have
it was about 25%.
Okay.
And the government had put out they want to increase it to 30% by 2020, but that didn't happen. So now they.
And how much it is maybe in the US or some other country?
Oh, so in Japan and so on, it's almost 80, 85. Europe is much too
huge. Yeah.
It's a very big gap. US is not. US is in the word 60, 62. I think for India to increase, the government is really keen that this gross enrollment ratio be increased to 50% by 2030. So that is the emphasis, and that is the reason of the NEP and all this effort that the government is putting in trying to see that the students who should be in school or college are actually there.
So now, since this is an unexpected question I'm asking you, is so now since you're based in Delhi and had your experience with Ashoka, did you also follow that what is happening in neighboring countries, like in terms of higher education in Pakistan or Nepal or Bangladesh or those countries? Or
Sure, absolutely. Actually, there is an interesting organization in the US that had put together some of us on a committee, and we used to partake. So there was Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and Afghanistan also, and so we regularly met and discussed issues. Similar kind of things are happening in all these countries. In Bangladesh, there is 2 or 3 interesting liberal arts universities. So also in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka. But of course, there's a lot more work to be done.
Excellent. Vanita, thank you so much. Really enjoyed talking with you and learned so much. It's incredible that how the higher ed landscape is changing there in India. It's incredible.
Thank you, Upendra. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Sure.
You're welcome. Bye.